Dogs, the pregame show for the NLDS game number 2. Of course, game number 1 did not go the way that the Dodgers wanted it to go, and Clayton Kershaw just simply put, he felt like he let the Dodgers nation down, did not pitch very well. The Dodgers were really relying on him to get the tone set. He just simply could not do it. So, Austin, good evening. Game 2 isn't a must-win because it's not the end of the year if you don't win it, but it's a must-win if you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, and I think every single Dodger fan and every single baseball fan understands what tonight is for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Last night, or a couple nights ago for Game 1, went about as poorly as you could have possibly imagined a Dodgers game going. Obviously, Kershaw was extremely disappointed in his performance. He just was not able to, he didn't have the stuff to get the Diamondbacks out. And the Diamondbacks, who we talked about going into this series, wanted to embrace chaos and start chaos. They went for the knockout punch first, and they went hard against the Dodgers. Luckily, it is a new day. That, despite how bad of a loss that is, only counts for one loss in this series. So, they're down 0-1. It was a bad loss. It was a horrible day for the Dodgers. The opportunity is new, and for Game 2 tonight, you talked about it not being a must-win, but being a must-win. I think everybody understands that for the Dodgers. So, if you're here, I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts about what you think is going to happen tonight. What are your feelings about going forward in this series? We're kind of turning the page from Game 1. We're recognizing, and we know that it happened, but we're excited for the rest of the series, and we anticipate the Dodgers to step up and forget about that, have the veteran leadership stand up and try to lead a comeback in this series.
Yeah, I didn't mention a whole lot, the last time out with Arizona and the pitching matchup, how, the Dodgers had dominated the matchup that was set up in that game. Zacgallen again tonight, if you look at the way that he's pitched against the Dodgers this year, in his last 2 outings, he's given up 11 earned runs in 10 innings. So it's another one of those setups to where it looks like the Dodgers, being at home, it looks like this should be a game that the Dodgers would be heavily favored in. It looks like a game that should be good for the Dodgers, but the last game looked like that was supposed to be that way too. And, Clayton Kershaw had owned the Diamondbacks and all of that. So, just playoff baseball, I didn't bring that up a whole lot before Game 1 because in playoff baseball, everything absolutely is a crapshoot. There is nothing about this that is predictable. The team that is at the hottest point at that time, which obviously the 2 teams in the National League right now are the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. I know Dave mentioned that he hopes that the day off is, going to be a situation that slows Arizona down just a touch. I know the Dodgers had a workout, a non-mandatory workout on Sunday that basically everybody showed up at. So hopefully that day off, that slows Arizona down a bit. Hopefully Bobbymiller can go out there, be in the strike zone, miss a lot of barrels, give this team some courage. The Dodgers hit a couple of home runs, get a lead. I think getting a lead tonight is going to be huge.
Yeah, no, that's going to be huge. And you mentioned Zacgallen has faced the Dodgers a couple times earlier this season. Both of those times didn't go well. And this actually, it's funny enough, this pitching matchup, I should say, is a rematch of exactly what happened on August 28th in Dodger Stadium, Zacgallen versus Bobbymiller. It was a game that it was a high-scoring game back and forth. I know Bobbymiller gave up a 3-run home run. The way the Dodgers were able to attack Zacgallen, and this is not something that Zacgallen gives up a lot, is those 4 home runs. Zacgallen has been a pitcher that has been extremely effective throughout the Arizona Diamondbacks. He has really solid control. He doesn't have overwhelming fastball velocity per se, but if you look at StatCast, his fastball, as far as run values, is one of the best pitches in baseball. As far as 27 run values, up there next to Garrett Cole's fastball, Logan Webb, and some of the pitches that he has. It is a really effective pitch. And then not just that, but he's also able to mix and match some other pitches as well. So with the Dodgers, I think it's important. You're going to have to try to get back in this series. You're going to have to score early. Don't give the Diamondbacks a lot of hope. Obviously, simultaneously right now is the Phillies and Braves game, and the Phillies are just dominating the Braves right now, just sucking the life out of Atlanta. You don't want that to happen in this series. You want to get off to a fast start. Hopefully, be able to hit Zacgallen hard, and hopefully be able to get a home run or two on the board early just to get yourself back in this series. Zacgallen's a really tough pitcher, though.
Yeah, you're looking at, another guy like the Dodgers have seen lately. He's going to throw that four seam about 94 miles an hour. Then his second best pitch is going to be that cutter. We've seen the Dodgers throw that cutter, be very successful with it. That's going to be his left turn, and then he's also going to have the right turn with both his changeup and his sinker. We saw that a lot in Game 1 for the Dodgers, and that simply gave them fits. I really felt like the Dodgers had fits hitting anything that turned right into it, and that shouldn't be the case because anything that turns right is going right into your swing as a right-hander. But it just seemed like the Dodgers had fits with that.
Oh yeah, and they're going to have fits with that, especially if they get later into the bullpen for a lot of these Diamondbacks. I know a lot of them throw a lot of sliders, a lot of sweepers. But with Zacgallen as well, he's also got a curveball that can go over the top and just really get off balance for a lot of these hitters. So it's going to be really important to stay disciplined, be able to have a good approach against Zacgallen, because he's going to be a tough pitcher to go up against. Even with the underwhelming velocity on the fastball, his stuff is really good, and with this Arizona Diamondbacks team, we talked about it a lot. They have nothing to lose, and so they're going to go all in for this.
Yeah, no doubt. Isn't it amazing that 93.4 average? We're saying that's somewhat underwhelming. That just simply is amazing to me. But Bobby Miller, he has the type of stuff that can slow down a very hot team. This is why a Bobby Miller type, we talk about this all the time. As long as the pitchability is there, the stuff can be overwhelming I don't care how hot a team is coming in. Clayton Kershaw, 88 to 90. If a team's very hot and, they're kind of in the zone, they're not swinging anything outside the zone, they can attack that and beat that kind of guy. But no matter how hot you are, if a guy's throwing 101 miles an hour and a 99-mile-an-hour sinker that's turning right, say 14, 15 inches, and he also has 4 secondary pitches behind that he's, for the most part, throwing for a strike, I don't care how hot you are coming in, you're not going to hit that. So Bobby Miller is the type of pitcher that can slow down a hot team.
Yeah, he is, and it's gonna be really fun to see how he does. I think a lot of Dodgers fans are expecting him to be kind of this ace type pitcher moving forward, and this is his first opportunity in the postseason. We have super high expectations because of the talent that he has. He has an opportunity to showcase why he likes to pitch in these big game situations. He's got that overwhelming velocity. I think the important thing for this is he's going to have to be precise. He's going to have to be disciplined with how he's pitching. Diamondbacks aren't a team, at least throughout the season, that has hit the ball too hard, which might sound crazy given their performance in Game 1 when they just overwhelmed and hit the crap out of the ball against the Dodgers. But overall, as a team, they haven't necessarily done that through the course of the season. One thing that they don't do is they don't strike out a lot. They're disciplined enough around league average walk rise, and they hit enough power. We talked about in the past having that ISO be a little bit higher than some of your strikeout percentages, or at least close. They have some hitters, especially at the top of the lineup, where that is true. So it's going to be important for Bobby Miller to be disciplined, to not get some of those guys on base, to hopefully not give up that 3-run home run that he did. He needs to make sure that, especially for a lot of those breaking stuff, he's getting those pitches down and not leaving them up over the plate. I know they've taken advantage of that, and I know that Gabriel Moreno against Bobby Miller hit a double to left. I know there's a home run on a breaking ball that was left up. It's going to be important for him to be disciplined in his approach and show why he needs the ball in these big game situations.
Are the Diamondbacks, is this how good the Diamondbacks are and they just struggled, and they shouldn't have in the middle of the season? Or is this a Diamondbacks team that's playing better than they actually are?
I think this is them playing better than they actually are. I think if you look at some of the underlying, I should say, expected stats, I think they're probably playing a little bit above their head. But that being said, they are a very dangerous team, and you have to respect what they did. You might not like that they put up 11 runs and got Kershaw out in the first inning, but they did that, and you have to respect your opponents and their capabilities, because otherwise you're not going to expect it. You have to play to your competition. You have to play better than your competition. And so with Arizona, you just have to respect what they did. I think it's a little bit better than what they have been playing over the course of the season. But still, they're hot right now. And sometimes the team that is hottest wins in October. And I think we've seen that a lot.
Yeah, Zacgallen 1-4 against the Dodgers, but there are some underlying metrics, kind of like Merrill Kelly. Hey, the Dodger Stadium had been a house of horrors for him. But if you dove deeper into the analytics of some of the things that had happened to him, you would see that just kind of some of the things that had happened to him had been oddities maybe. And I think you could probably put Zacgallen in that category. So although he's 1-4, there are some underlying metrics. ERA is just 3.45, 75 strikeouts against the Dodgers, and 11 appearances in his career. So there are some underlying metrics that could say that, hey, if the Dodgers don't, play to their capabilities, Zacgallen could have success.
Oh, yeah. No, and a lot of those just having to do with some of his pitch mix. If you look at his pitching run value on Baseball Savant, it is in the 99th percentile. Mm-hmm. He has been extremely good. Fastball run value has been extremely good, and he has been a pitcher that has not walked a ton of people. He's given up some hard contact, sure, but he's been disciplined with how he's been approaching pitching, and so with that, he's going to be able to locate a lot of his pitches. Go back to that start on August 28th. He had some pitches where he was able to locate his fastball in some of the corners. He was able to pitch really well, even in a poor performance, just being able to locate. So with that location, with that pitch ability that he has, I think it's going to be really important for the Dodgers just to be disciplined, to be smart, and to use that veteran approach as far as leadership is concerned. So it's going to be a tough task because it just is.
There's one of my Dodgers dogs right there. That's Barney.
As you can see on Dodger Dogs, we have some actual dogs on the show. So some special guests. We love to hear
the beauty of live shows.
Some special guests in the comments as well. So
you want to meet my other one, Vivi? Come here.
No? Yeah, okay. let's have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, Vivi, come here. Come here. Barney will come back out. See, Barney's my ones. Vivi's all shy and stuff. Barney's like, hey, let's just do it. So you got to meet Barney.
Yeah, there you go.
The other one's Vivian. All right. Who will pitch after Bobby Miller? I think it's going to be Lancylynn. We've been hinting to that for quite a while. The Dodgers love their veterans. That's why you and I both thought they would start Clayton Kershaw in Game 1. And I know there was a lot of Dodgers fans that didn't necessarily agree with that. But here's the deal. Okay, Clayton Kershaw, I think we all agreed that he was going to pitch either Game 1 or Game 2. And I don't think anybody had any problem with that. So what's the difference between 1 and 2, really? I mean, let's say that Bobby Miller goes out and does what he does tonight, and he did that in Game 1, and then Clayton Kershaw did what he did in Game 2. I mean, if you go out and you win the second one, you're going to be 1-1 either way. So I don't see where the order was that big of a deal. It just came down to the fact that do you think Clayton Kershaw should have been pitching at all because of his health?
Yeah, and I think that helps specifically with the days off that they get in the series. You had an extra day off between games 1 and 2 that you don't always have in the division series. I think that helps because my main concern with that is, would Clayton Kershaw be able to pitch? Would you give him enough time under that college type pitching where he pitches once a week? That was my biggest concern going into that, and why I would have considered putting Bobby Game 1. With the days off, I think that lessens that. But for Game 3, it sounds like it's going to be Lancylynn. I know we've advocated for Ryan Pepio based on his performance. I still think you're going to see Ryan Pepio probably in game 3, probably as a piggyback starter. If not, they'll use him as a piggyback starter for Clayton Kershaw in game 4. Either one of those, I think you could possibly see. He is still going to play an important role. Lancylynn, though, he's going to have the opportunity to step up, be a veteran, and show that he can continue to help this Dodger team throughout the postseason. So it sounds like it's going to be Lancylynn from Dave Roberts himself.
And then it looks like it's going to be Clayton Kershaw game 4, then Bobby Miller game 5. We've said this also, the Dodgers, hey, in a 5-game series, all you need is 3 starters. And it looks to me like the Dodgers are setting up a 3-starter system.
Yeah, and especially in this shorter series, and with game one kind of going not the way that you wanted to, you have a lot of those high leverage bullpen arms, kind of we talked about the A team or the guys that you want to rely on in those must win situations that you have available for game 2, which is not, but is a must win situation. You have it for some of the other games with some of the days off. You'll have a day off tomorrow before you head to Arizona. A lot of those guys will be available, as well as the rest of the bullpen as well. They're going to have a lot of options. Obviously, game 1 was a punch to the gut, to say the least. They're going to have to get up and respond tonight.
No doubt about that, and it's going to be a situation to where I think the keys to tonight's game squarely are going to be score early and get a lead early, hey, and get everybody involved early on in the game and get things going from that perspective. Just get the bad taste out of your mouth. Get some insecurity into that Diamondbacks dugout, of which there is none of that right now. So I think the at-bats in the first inning between Mookie Betts, of course, you know, last time before you hit, you were down 6-0. That squashes a lot of momentum. But, you know, hey, Bobby Miller needs to go out. He needs to throw strikes. He needs to get out of that first inning, give this team some momentum, and then get in that bottom of the first inning, and the Dodgers need to score. Just scratch one. Just get that momentum from that perspective. I think that's going to be a huge part of it.
Or even just put some base runners on, start building some of that momentum and start putting some pressure back on the Diamondbacks. Because right now, the Dodgers are feeling all of the pressure. They've had these disappointments in the postseason. I'm sure it's wearing on a lot of these guys. But with this team they have a lot of character. We've seen them be able to step up and fight back through adversity. I mean, this is what we saw for the first 2 or 3 months of this season. Just this team that went through a whole bunch of different situations, were able to learn and fight back and rely on some of the veteran leadership and have some of the young guys step up. Tonight, you have one of the younger guys making his postseason debut coming up. You also have him surrounded by veteran leadership that's going to help them. It's a really good mix, a really fun team that the Dodgers have been able to put together. But I think it's important to be able to showcase that and remind the Diamondbacks early in this game that we're not out of this series. This series is not over. That was a phrase that I used quite a bit during the Loons postseason when they went to Cedar Rapids. It's not over. And that has to be the mindset for the Dodgers. It is not over. You are still very much, if you win this game, it goes back to Arizona. Some of the pressure is put back on Arizona. And this is a team that you've been able to defeat in the past. So pressure is on the Dodgers right now. I think they need to score early, get Bobby Miller settled down into this game, and just realize this is the exact same game. Even if the stage is a little bit bigger, the lights are a little bit brighter, this is still the same game that he has dominated in the past, and I fully expect him to be able to have that ability to step up to the big moment.
Yeah, so some of the questions we've had, who will pitch after Bobby Miller, I'm fully expecting that to be Lancylynn with a piggyback situation, a short leash, and then a piggyback Ryan Pepio behind him. I heard he's going to start game 3. No. So, and then another question. Good evening, Hep C. Good evening, Craig. Good evening, the Damino. And another question we have, what's the earliest Bobby Miller can pitch again? Game 5. I think that's also why they set Bobby Miller up for game 2, is so he could return again in game 5. You're going to have, I think, game 4, Clayton Kershaw, game 5, Bobby Miller.
I think that's exactly right. I think that's how, with the way that the series is set up with the rest days, they were able to use a 3-man rotation,
Yep.
kind of be able to set it up and use some of your ace level pitchers in there. So
Yeah. My dogs are having at it in the background. So, hey, live shows are always interesting at the Porterhouse because when you have 2 pit bulls, one male and one female, you never know exactly what's going to happen. I also think that's why they set it up like this. Let's say the Dodgers win tonight. They win Wednesday night. Guess who's on the mound to clinch it? Clayton Kershaw.
Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, which is, I mean, there's some sentimental value to that. Of course, sentimental value has to go out the window. You have to make the best decisions for your club. But, hey, he is 88 to 90. We've mentioned, a couple different times on our weekly shows that, our shows that we do on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He wasn't going to be 100%. The question was going to be how healthy was he going to be? Well, the thing is, Austin, he went 6 innings his last outing in his regular season. So there were indications that Clayton Kershaw was definitely healthy enough to start that first game and then throw the 4th game. And then hopefully, if the Dodgers win the next 2, that's a game that clinches the series. Then if that doesn't happen, you have the stuff of Bobby Miller going in Game 5. You're going to have a guy on the mound in Game 5 that if he goes out there and pitches the way that he's capable of, Arizona's not going to hit him. So I think that's, I don't know. I mean, it's hindsight's 2020, and I know there were lots of fans here on Dodgers Daily that it's not hindsight for them. They said point blank before this ever started, they didn't agree with throwing Clayton Kershaw out there in Game 1. They would have rather seen Bobby Miller. So, when I say hindsight, that's not everybody. There were people that this isn't hindsight for. But having said that, I think it's kind of 6 one way, half dozen the other, because I mentioned earlier, whether it's Kershaw Game 1 or Kershaw Game 2, I think we all agreed that he needed to pitch at least one of those 2 games in the NLDS.
Yeah, and obviously this is something that is completely abnormal to what we've seen Clayton Kershaw, not just this season, but throughout his entire career. We know about the diminishing of some of the stuff, especially some of the velocity. We've seen some of the warning signs with that, but I don't think anybody expected it to break the way that it did, expected it to happen the way that it did. Definitely a huge disappointment, but you expect your Hall of Fame pitcher to be able to adapt. If the Dodgers are going to go anywhere in the postseason, Kershaw is going to have a role and going to have an important role in that because they need him. He's been the ace. He's been there throughout the season, throughout some of the injuries that he's fought with, but he's really been a veteran leadership position who's been able to change some of his approach as his velocity has gone down a little bit. I fully expect him to be able to adapt, adjust, because that's what we've seen him throughout his entire career. But it certainly is concerning, and you have to start thinking of potential backup plans, which that could be
Ryan Pepiot,
that could lead into
backup plan, yeah.
It would have
Him and
been
Sheehan, maybe.
But Ryan Yarborough's not even on the postseason roster. So
I know you mentioned that. You mentioned that he might not make it. And I was like, huh? I mean, that never even entered my mind until you brought that up, and you're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that had to do with it being a shorter series. I don't think they expected to need. They didn't need his length. They needed more a guy that can just swing and miss. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they were looking for a lot of those swings and miss because typically that's what helps in these situations. Now that situation, the length that they thought they didn't necessarily need, they might have actually needed because Clayton Kershaw didn't make it out of the first inning. I think that is something that was not anticipated by anybody. So with that, you have to start to think.
I think there are some Dodgers fans that aren't surprised, though. Maybe to the extent of 6 runs, but they're not surprised he struggled.
Yeah, and with that, I think the lack of length and the lack of ability to find a way out of that is probably the thing that surprises me the most with Clayton Kershaw's performance. But the point that I'm trying to make with this is you have to start thinking about that piggyback role. What if Kershaw is off game 4 as well? What is the backup plan? What is the game plan for that? With that, do you use the piggyback Lancylynn and Ryan Pepiot in game 3? Or do you save Ryan Pepiot as a potential option just in case Kershaw is off again. In which
I think
case
Sheehan would be that starter.
It's totally could be, yeah. And that could be kind of the option that you have. You could go with an Emmett Sheehan. I think that is totally possible. Question is, do you want to go with a Kershaw Sheehan piggyback again with that? I don't know what the Dodgers' minds or where the Dodgers' heads are. I would totally expect Lancylynn, Ryan Pepiot game 3, unless Lancylynn is dealing at that point. A lot of difficult questions that are brought up because of the performance that Kershaw had.
Yeah, Hep C's one of the Dodgers Daily, one of the people that come on this show quite a bit, and this is not hindsight for him. Hep C's been saying this for quite a while about Kershaw, and his comments, on him is he's not right. He struggles in Arizona, all negative signs. Why are they doing this? Well, to answer that question, I don't think they see any other alternatives. I guess you could start Pepiot instead of Kershaw and throw the whole thing out and then maybe make Sheehan a starter as well. But I don't think the Dodgers see that as a viable option. At least they didn't coming into this. So I think that's why they're doing it, because I just don't think they see another option that's any better. And another comment, he shouldn't pitch anymore in the playoffs. If they run him out there again, they will only embarrass him even more. That very well could be the case. And it's very sad, because Clayton Kershaw is a Hall of Famer. To see if this is his last, action with the Dodgers, that's sad.
Oh, it's absolutely heartbreaking. You don't want this to be the last time. You don't want this to be the last images that you see of Clayton Kershaw in the Dodgers uniform or in a baseball uniform just in general. That is a very serious and very alarming concern. Extremely disappointing all around, not just with the result of the game, but what this could potentially mean for him in the closing of his career. You don't want these to be the images. You want him to be able to get some of that redemption back. But you also have to keep in mind with the overall team. I think Kershaw would much rather have the team have success than him to be able to, quote unquote, go out on top, meaning have a good performance, look good individually in the postseason before retiring and having that sacrifice some of the team success. I think they're going to try to do what's best for the team. I think what's best for the team is if Kershaw's able to pitch and pitch effectively, pitch well. I think he still gives them probably the best, just the best upside to potentially win a lot of these games. There's a lot of concerning things going out based off of his performance and based off some of the signs that we saw.
Yeah. And Michael, good evening, Michael. Michael's saying that they said Sheehan would not be available again this series. I have not heard that. I've heard game 4 at the earliest. I have heard nothing about the only thing I've heard about Sheehan would be game 4 at the earliest, which is what we're talking about. And then if you don't want to throw Pepiot back, or Kershaw back out there, that's what we were talking about, that game 4 instead of starting Kershaw, it would be Sheehan. But if anybody else has heard different than that, hey, leave a comment for us. That's an interesting topic. I'll do some research on that.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously we don't have any, we don't work for the Dodgers. We don't have any inside notes as far as that. So we're just kind of basing what we know, what we've seen in the past from the Dodgers, and what we think that they're going to do in the future. Obviously, there can be some tricks and wrinkles that they have in there with a lot of these games. You can throw a bullpen type game in one of these ones. How that wears down some of the bullpen, don't necessarily know, but that could be an option. Also for game 4, let's say that you use a Lancylynn, Ryan Pepiot game 3. Game 4, if there is, assuming that there is a game 4, if you start Kershaw, you could have it be a bullpen game after whatever Kershaw is able to give you, and be able to use some of those arms, especially if Lancylynn and Ryan Pepiot are able to give you some length. So lots of interesting options. I don't necessarily know what the availability, what some of the plans are for a lot of the Dodgers as far as their pitchers are concerned. I just know tonight it's bobbymiller, and then I believe it's been announced that Lancylynn's going to start game 3. The rest of the plans, Dodgers know what those plans are, and they're going to try to utilize what is best to win this series.
Dodgers love their veterans. Been saying that for a long time, and that philosophy might take them right back into basketball season.
It very well could.
I mean, this team, these rookies are good. And, you know, I mean, it's hard to go out there when you're Emmett Sheehan and I mean, the position he was put in was wicked. I mean, come on, man. You have that kind of negative momentum going against you, and then Michael Grove came in. But, hey, you know, and hey, you know, the veteran thing, great, but you need to put out there who you think is actually the best pitcher to give you the best chance to win games. So the Dodgers, you know, like I said, they love their veterans, and they're going to throw them out there. Lancylynn game 3, Clayton Kershaw game 1. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll.
You would think this would be a year that they wouldn't go that way, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the tendencies and a lot of the approach that they have. I'm sure that they believe that they will give them the best chance to win. Could be due to some of their past history. Could be due to some of the things that they're seeing. Although with Kershaw, some of the things that we actually saw in game were very concerning. So with that, I think we've seen them rely on the veterans, rely on that base, and kind of supplement that with some of the rookies. We'll see how that turns out for them. It's a very important couple of days. The thing is with this, you're only as much negative as we've been talking about with this. You're still only down 1-0. That game only counted for one of these games.
But that's a huge game because now you got to win 3 out of 4.
Yes,
that's a tough. I mean, that's tough duty. Game 1's huge, man.
Oh, it very much is. But the point is the opportunity still is there, and this is a team that you have beat throughout the postseason. It is a tall task. That game 1 is incredibly important. Just like we talked about the difference between 1-0 and 0-1 when you're hitting or pitching, that difference is huge. The opportunity still is there for the Dodgers. And so if you want to look at it from an optimistic approach, that is still there. They have beaten this team. You have the game tonight where you will have the opportunity to go up against this Arizona team and be able to go to Arizona tied at 1, kind of reverse some of that pressure. It's a very important game tonight.
Hey, Sean, welcome, and hey, welcome, Jay, 2 of the most intelligent Dodgers Daily fans out there. Just great baseball people, and comment almost on every video. Just some wonderful comments. We get great discussion going every time. Good evening, Jay. Jay says, I'd like to see Outman have a hair on fire game tonight. Casey mentioned that at each new level, Outman has gone off so far. Playoffs are another level. No doubt about that. He mentioned having nerves. That's not surprising. So another thing that needs to happen tonight is for the Dodgers to get off to a good start. Guys like James Outman can settle into it. They can get comfortable with it. Of course, when your Hall of Fame leader and Clayton Kershaw goes out there and gives up 6, it makes everybody uptight. So, yeah, it would be great to see James Outman have a hair-on-fire type game tonight. You know, maybe get on base 3 times, hit a home run, something like that. That would be fantastic. I think that would probably, if that happens, you're going to have a good night offensively. Dodgers need to score early to get that mojo and let James Outman just kind of be a guy that's piling on and not necessarily the guy you're relying on to win the game for you. So hopefully that happens. Roy, good evening. Roy always joins us, and we are very, very thankful for that. Roy says pitchers will have short leash and bullpen pitchers all available. No doubt about that, especially Lancylynn. I think Bobbymiller, they'll let him work through some issues early just because of he's the one guy that can slow this offense down for Arizona as far as his stuff. He can get through it. You know, he can get swing and miss. He can get through their bats, that type of thing. So I think he will have a little bit larger of a leash, but I think Lancylynn will have basically no leash. I mean, it's going to be pitch by pitch for him when he starts. Hep C also says, great comments here, I think they go Ferguson as an opener to face Carroll the first inning. That's a good point because then, you know, you get your right-handed starter in when you're not facing Corbin Carroll and guys like that. So that would not be a bad idea, although, you know, Caleb Ferguson has not been good in his last couple of openers, so that would be kind of interesting to see how that works. But if you're going to use Caleb Ferguson, I think that's probably the best role early in a game, not late. So if he does come out and struggle, it gives you time to overcome that. So he says Ferguson as an opener to face Carroll in the first inning. Second inning, you go Lancylynn to let him for 4 or 5, and then save Pepio for game 4. which I think that's a great plan. I don't think that's what the Dodgers are going to do. I think they're going to throw Pepio and Lynn in the same game, and then they're going to throw Kershaw, Sheehan, and Grove. Again, a repeat of game one. I think Hep C has a great idea there. That's exactly what I would do. Actually, that's not a terrible idea in the sense that I think you're matching up Lancylynn perfectly from that scenario. You're matching up Caleb Ferguson perfectly. Two guys that are going to have to pitch at some time for you to win this series. So why not make it the perfect matchup for them? I totally agree. Starting Pepio, I've said that a couple of times. Making these young guys starters where they can get in that routine, I think is a great idea. No doubt, Hep. Hey, the offense needs to show up. One of the best ways to come back from this series and make things less tense is to score 8 or 9 runs, kind of like the Arizona Diamondbacks did. And the Domino, always a great part of the audience on Dodgers Dogs. He says that the heads are going to be rolling for Dave Roberts if they don't win this series. No doubt about it, and rightfully so. I mean, hey, this is the Dodgers. You got to be able to get past the first round. This will be the second year in a row that the Dodgers have not done that. If the Dodgers don't win this against an NL West opponent that you're heavily favored over, so there's nobody that could defend that. Hey, it is what it is. It's a crapshoot, and I'm not saying it would be David Roberts' fault. I'm not saying that should be right. I'm not saying that should be the case. But, hey, facts are facts. You got to make it past the first round if you're the Dodgers. Craig says Mookie needs to start hitting. Sean also, hey, good evening, Sean. We are super glad that you joined us. Glad to see Dodgers Dogs are on. Hey, just a reminder, tell everybody you know that we are going to have pregame shows before all of these NLDS games, and then moving on, hopefully, to the NLCS and then the World Series. So, hey, help spread the word that we will be on for pregame, and you can come join us.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit superstitious, I think we could say. And I know for the game on Saturday, there was a certain pregame show that did not take place. And we saw what happened when the pregame show did not take place. It did not turn out too well.
I promised it, and I did not deliver. My apologies there, but I was knee deep in Oklahoma State football.
Yeah. And so with that, I think with this, hopefully, we're able to provide a little bit of luck. And if this works, if they are able to win the game tonight, you can fully expect, even if it doesn't, you can fully expect these streams to hopefully take place, assuming that one of us is available for this. No, with a lot of those comments, obviously the offense needs to step up. They have been one of the best offenses in the league, and they have shown up. They have star level, all-star, MVP level bats in their lineup. They're going to have to step up and carry this team. They're going to have to step up and get this team back in the series. They have some of the best players in the game of baseball. They have to show why they are the best, and they have to show why they are better than even some of the hitters and Diamondbacks have. That's going to be most important in this. I think with the game plan to potentially throw Lancylynn, Caleb Ferguson as an opener, really good idea, especially if you want to use some of your high leverage bullpen arms after that and save Ryan Pepio kind of as a insurance plan for Kershaw. I think that could potentially be a possibility. I don't know exactly what the game plan is, and the Dodgers aren't going to tell us what the game plan is necessarily because they don't want to give any information away from the Diamondbacks. We'll see what happens. No, offense is going to have to step up tonight. You're going to have to score early. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Will Smith, JD Martinez, the top of the lineup that has done so well throughout the course of the season. We're going to be relying on them to be able to score runs early, hopefully have a little bit of extra base hit, be able to do the dance at second base. Hopefully they can move past second base too and go in to score, get a home run or two. Offense is incredibly important tonight.
Yeah, like watching the Oklahoma State football game, I go to all the OSU games. I love them. I go to the baseball games too. It's one of my passions. I'm sure you growing up, you saw a lot of the Detroit Tiger games. I'm sure you're a big Detroit Lions fan as well. Okay, so watching the OSU game this weekend, OSU had been struggling. They lost 2 games in a row, hadn't looked good doing it, kind of like the Dodgers did the other, in game 1 of the NLDS. So OSU came out first possession. They ran a reverse. They ran a reverse pass. They ran about 5 RPO plays that they hadn't shown all year. They went right down the field and scored a touchdown. Well, now all the players, they're celebrating. Instead of thinking, well, we've sucked the last 2 games, we're not any good. Hey, the coaches drew up a plan to get everybody excited, and it absolutely worked. And Oklahoma State played good offense the whole game. They beat K-State. I only say that to say Bobby Miller tonight, he needs to come out in the top of that first inning, and he needs to create some electricity. He needs to come out and throw it 102 miles an hour. He needs to throw some nasty-ass curveballs, and he needs to make that Dodgers dugout think, hey, we're winning tonight, boys. And he needs to make that Arizona Diamondbacks dugout think, if he throws like this all night, we're screwed. Which is kind of the way that Oklahoma State felt and the way K-State felt after that first possession. And then Mookie needs to come out. He needs to get on base. He needs to score. Freddie needs to get a hit. The Dodgers need to score a couple of runs. And by the time it's the second inning, kind of like after the first possession of a football game, that mojo needs to be changed. The Dodgers need to be in a positive, excited mood. They need to be dancing around and have flipped all of that momentum on its head. That needs to happen early in this game.
Yeah, and I think Bobby Miller can provide that attitude while pitching. I think he can provide that intimidating attitude that I'm going to get you out, and kind of some of that excitement that he can pitch with, but just that overall demeanor that he has, I think can be extremely intimidating as far as this stops now. Let's provide some excitement. And then I think the offense can provide some of that personality, some of that excitement and energy. I think that's going to be important because you want Dodger Stadium to be rocking. It wasn't rocking because of the knockout punch early in that game that just took the air out of Dodger Stadium and didn't allow them to really be able to get back. I think providing that energy and reminding the Diamondbacks who this team is, that they are a 100-win team, that they are a force to be reckoning with.
You're still the Diamondbacks. We're still the Dodgers. That statement needs to be made.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. They need to show that almost immediately.
Yeah, and I've seen Bobby Miller so many times in person. Saw him at Louisville. I saw him in his first outing at AA Tulsa. Of course, it's not the playoffs. I understand all that. But hey, when you're making your first appearance in AA, you're excited, just like it is the playoffs, because I mean that's where your feet are at that time, right? Okay, so Bobby Miller's first outing, it was in One Oak, and hey, One Oak set the league record this year in attendance. There were more people saw a AA baseball game in Tulsa than anywhere else in the Texas League. I say that to say One Oak in Tulsa puts off an incredible environment, especially on a Saturday night when they have all the hill full, they have all the grandstands full. They have, I mean, it's an amazing place for baseball. It's electric, so, there's 8,000 or 9,000 people there. And that night on a Saturday night, Bobby Miller was facing Jack Leiter. And if you remember, Jack Leiter had just come out of Vanderbilt, and he was, I think, the number 2 pick overall. Him and Kumar Rocker were the big dudes for Vanderbilt that year. Leiter may have been the first pick of that draft. I don't remember, but Al Leiter's son. Okay, so Jack Leiter, and at this time, Jack Leiter was a way bigger deal than Bobby Miller, right? So this is now Bobby Miller was a big deal, don't get me wrong, but Jack Leiter was a way bigger deal than Bobby Miller. And so as Jack Leiter, Bobby Miller, Saturday night, I was there. I was sitting next to Dave Holliday, who was a scout of the Phillies, who was also a coach at Oklahoma State for like 10 years when Gary Ward came and built that dynasty in the 80s. And we were so pumped. And I can tell you, Bobby Miller just dominated that game. And he made it personal. I'm going to say point blank, Bobby Miller made that game personal to him. That was him versus Jack Leiter, and I'll be damned, he was going to kick Jack Leiter's ass. That was the mentality he took the mound with. That was the mentality he made every pitch with, and that's the mentality he left the game with, and he did it. That's exactly how he's going to take the mound tonight. I can tell you I can tell you right now, professionals will tell you, hey, it's not about this, it's not about that, it's not personal. Bull. It is. Bobby Miller is going to take this personal because he is a guy that people think is going to be the dude for the Dodgers, and he is going to make it personal to show everybody he can be that dude. He's going to take the mound with that mentality. So, hey, if I'm Will Smith, I'm telling you right now, I'm putting an extra batting glove on because we might see a pitch that is thrown rather hard tonight with that adrenaline. So from that perspective, I'm so pumped to watch Bobby Miller tonight.
Oh, I'm so pumped to watch him too. It's that attitude. It is the demeanor that he has on the mound.
It's the kick ass he brings. Hey, he's not scared of anything.
Oh, and you could tell that early in his career. He was the Great Lakes Loons opening day starter in 2021, first season back from COVID. I remember I was at that game. He also pitched no-hitter, first ever one for Great Lakes in their history. But the biggest thing that he has going for him above the stuff is his ability, his attitude, and what he's able to do. And that attitude, that the way he goes about pitching in these big games really is highlighted in those situations. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the national stage to be able to see this. If they haven't been able to see Bobby Miller pitched before, this is a big opportunity for him. Regardless of what happens tonight, he's going to have a huge role on this team going forward. And this is another step in the process of going throughout your career, trying to build some momentum for the future. But it's also an opportunity for him to showcase exactly who he is. And I fully expect him to be mentally there and emotionally there. And he's going to have that attitude going into tonight's game. So I'm excited for that to be showcased.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And if I had any advice, of course, who am I? I'm just a guy behind a microphone that's about 1,500 miles away from where first pitch is going to be thrown tonight. Okay, if I had any advice to give, if I'm Dave, of course, and I'm a high school coach, so take that into consideration too. When you're 162, you try to squell those emotions because you don't want the ups and downs. You can't get too high, you can't get too low. It's such a long season that if you get too high, you're going to be burned out by June. So that's really why you have to, it's got to stay on an even keel. But if this isn't an even keel time, it's not the regular season. Hey, this is win or go home, man. So if I had any advice for Dave, and certainly Mark Pryor, who never shows emotions, let him ride his emotions. Let him get emotional. Let him ride that because it's going to be adrenaline that's going to be fueling his emotions. Let him get that adrenaline going and let him show it. Let him, come off the mound and yell, "Let's go," something like that, like I've seen him do 1,000 times. Don't take that away from him. I know you might think it looks a little bit amateurish or it might be a little bit too high and low type deal. I don't care. At this point in the season, in the playoffs, he needs that adrenaline. He needs to have the ability to get excited like that, to ride that adrenaline like that. And I also think that will bleed into the rest of his teammates.
Yes, that's going to have an effect on the rest of this team. It's just being able to be fired up and be able to not just show the velocity, not just show that I can dominate you, but to be able to provide that little bit of extra intimidation as well. I reminded by that in the postseason this past season for the Loons. Juan Murillo was like that. He was somebody who was very jacked up.
De Los Santos was like that too. He'd stare you down.
Oh, yeah. No, somebody who had a little bit of that attitude and was able to get a lot of those guys out, showed some emotion. With Bobby Miller, he's got incredible velocity. He's got incredible stuff, and he can get these guys out, showcase that. Provides a little bit of fear in the Diamondbacks and whatever way you can. And what that's going to do is that's also going to get Bobby Miller comfortable in this game. You want him to be comfortable. You don't want the thoughts of, I got to control myself with this. You want him to be thinking about pitching. You want him to ride that adrenaline because they need him to be that, unleash the beast that is Bobby Miller in this game.
Yeah, so if I'm with Bobby Miller in the bullpen, I tell him, hey, listen, man, you throw it 102 miles an hour. You have 4 of the nastiest secondary pitches. You have a 98, 99 mile an hour sinker. Okay, go out there and kick these guys' ass. All right, and ride that emotions, and hey, man, I want to see you get excited about this. This is your moment, man. They can't beat you. This is a situation to where if you do what you're supposed to do, you're going to kick their ass. Period. Point blank. Go out there and do it. So I try to feed that type of adrenaline into Bobby Miller before he takes the mound. And then when Bobby Miller doesn't see me, I go over to Will Smith and I say, hey, keep this under control. You know, we got him fired up. It's your job to make sure that this adrenaline goes in the positive way. And if you don't see it, that's whenever you need to get with him and you need to maybe calm it down from time to time. I'm relying on you to do that. That's the two conversations I would have. And then I would just go out and I'd get me a bucket of popcorn and see what happens.
Yeah, no, and you want, if you're Bobby Miller, you want that crowd to be as electric as possible. And they're going to be electric, and that's going to happen when you make some of your pitches, when you throw for strikes. This Dodgers crowd does have an important part to play, and that is in firing Bobby Miller up, especially with a lot of these younger guys. They can ride a lot of that adrenaline, a lot of the hype that is built up in a lot of these games, and having that support from the crowd. I know Dodgers Nation is going to show up. I know they're going to be loud. They're going to be energetic. They're going to be excited.
I can't wait, man. We're getting close to guys. I'm just like, come on, man. The last 15, 20 minutes before game time like this, I just get, let's go.
I know. And you can tell that from both of us that we're getting a little bit excited about that.
That's probably why I'm probably not a very good pregame host, because it's like I want to go out there and start playing, you know?
No, and I love that, because you have a lot of passion. You know what it's like in a lot of these situations. You know, just seeing Bobby Miller grow up. We haven't just watched him this season. We've watched him for years, watching his story, watching him be able to grow. And we know the capability that he has, and we know that he can showcase this on a national level, and this is his opportunity to do that. And so we're excited for that. We want Bobby Miller to be unleashed for that and be able to get the Dodgers back in this series.
Yeah, just a reminder, we're going to do these pregame shows before every NLDS game, as long as Austin and I are available and feeling okay, that kind of deal. So we're going to throw these out there. Hey, tell everybody you know. Let's grow the crowd for this. It's been a good crowd tonight. Let's get this up there to around 100 people in the lobby and get a great Dodgers conversation going. Sean says the Phillies scare me more than Atlanta. The pitching and hitting for them could get hot and repeat for the pennant. No doubt about it. I agree with that. And the Phillies have that hot factor too.
Oh, yeah. Just speaking right now, Phillies are up 4-3. Atlanta's actually starting to come back a little bit in this game. They could potentially make some sort of comeback. They still have 2 innings. It's the top of the 8th right now, with 2 outs for the Phillies, at least what I have. It could be a little bit delayed with the streaming service that I'm using. But the Phillies scare me a lot with how hot they are. But just like that, the Atlanta Braves, especially if they come back to this one, could be right back on track. Just like if the Dodgers win tonight, they could be right back on track. All of those teams scare me.
Yeah, the Domino, Zach Wheeler is kind of disgusting. I would not want to face him in the playoffs, even if he told me what he was going to throw. Yeah, no doubt. That's the thing about Bobby Miller, too. Hey, you can steal all your signs you want. Good luck. You know, I mean, I can remember a game. It was a big game. It was one of the biggest games we'd ever played. And I was the 3-hole hitter, and I don't want to tell too many stories, but just kind of to go to his point there. And the leadoff hitter, you know, he'd come back in, and his name was Jason Turk, ended up playing at Oklahoma State University. He came back in, and I would always ask him, hey, what does it look like? You know, what does he got? Where's the window at as far as where's the release point and all that? And he would always give me a really good, you know, he was a leadoff guy. He'd always see 8 or 9 pitches. He didn't even care if he got on base. His job, in his opinion, was to see as many pitches so he could come back and tell everybody in the dugout what it looked like that day. So I remember in this game, you know, he came by, he struck out after about 6 or 7 pitches. And I said, hey, Jason, what does it look like, man? What do we got? And he goes, all I got to tell you is if you see those pitches that I saw, good luck. And I was like, oh, man, this is not going to be a good night, because this is our dude. You know, this is the guy that he never thinks like that. He's a Division I player, right? And so that's kind of, you know, what Bobby Miller can do to the other team is that, you know, hey, you walk back to the dugout, Corbin Carroll does, and everybody's going, hey, what does it look like? And he's like, you get those 3 pitches, you ain't hitting them. Let's just hope that he doesn't throw those 3 pitches over and over and over tonight. So, so hopefully that happens tonight. Dinamo says, Sean, if I had to pick between facing the Phillies or the Braves, I think I'd pick the Brewers. That's funny. Yeah, too bad the Brewers aren't still in the playoffs. Good choice, Domino's, Sean says. And Austin, what are you using to watch the games this postseason with?
Oh, so typically I don't have cable. I just use MLB TV.
Yeah,
but
Roku.
I just got a Sling TV for half off this month in order to watch these postseason games. So that worked out. Wasn't too terribly expensive. So you get your first month half off, and then I'll probably cancel it after this month after the postseason's done. Do it all over again next postseason.
We cut the cord about 5 years ago, and we're out in the middle of nowhere, so that ought to tell you. How much we despise paying cable. Of course, we can't get cable out here. We have to do satellite because we're out in the boonies, and so we can't. Or satellite and just went. We cut the cord a while back, and so we don't even have Sling TV. We just have all the different apps on the Roku that we the individual, like I think we pay for ESPN, MLB TV, Fox Sports, Netflix, Disney Plus, and a couple more, but. Yeah, so we're going to be watching on that as well. But, okay, hey, man, we're getting close to it. It is 7:51. We're going to take you right up to about 8 o'clock. Hey, make sure and tell all your friends this is a pregame show that we are going to continue to have as we go on. So some final thoughts here, some keys to the game tonight.
Yeah, and for the actual audience to have a little bit of audience participation, what are some of your predictions for tonight? Let's go ahead and hear kind of what you guys are thinking in the comments. No, I think we've stated it throughout the show tonight. You have to, Bobby Miller has to be Bobby Miller and show some of that adrenaline, show some of that attitude, be able to build some positive momentum early, remind the Diamondbacks who this Dodger team is. I think being able to score early, for Zacgallen, being able to get some hard contact. That is something that he has been a little bit susceptible to, giving up some of that hard contact. It's going to be incredibly difficult if he's able to locate with really good effectiveness a lot of his pitches. He's going to mix a lot of his pitches well. So with the Dodgers, they have a tall task on hand. That being said, they have been able to hit Zacgallen in the past. Use some of that success that you've had in the past to your advantage. A lot of these guys have seen Zacgallen. They've had success against him. Provide some slug, provide some early, smart, disciplined offense. And if you're able to do that, if Bobby Miller is able to succeed, you have guys in the bullpen that can shut down this lineup. That's going to be, I think, some of the keys to this game. Start out early, continue the momentum that you've had against Zacgallen, and then for Bobby Miller, just be Bobby Miller.
Yeah, I'm going to say it again. I think the biggest key, I don't think the Dodgers can't win if this doesn't happen. Get some good mojo going early on, man. Score early, get out of a couple of innings, get the momentum on your side, even if it's just one run. Get the lead, get the crowd back into it, get everybody feeling good about it. And I think the key of all the things that I've done, kind of been a cheerleader for Bobby Miller, and here in the last 15 minutes, hey, one thing that has to happen, he has to be in the strike zone. We've seen this with at least 3 pitches. Okay, so fastball, obviously. Okay, the 4-seam. It could be a combination of the 4-seam, the 2-seam, and then one of his secondary pitches. Or it could be his 4-seam and 2 of his secondary pitches. But some combination, he has the 5 pitches. 3 of his pitches need to be in the strike zone, 50% or more. When that happens, teams don't hit Bobby Miller. So I think if you're following along and you're seeing at least 3 pitches in the zone, 50% or more, I think you can see that's going to translate to success for him.
Yeah, and I think you also, if you're the Dodgers, you also have to play a very clean defensive game. Arizona is not a team that strikes out a ton. Even against Bobby Miller, they only struck out 4 times in both of his 2 appearances against them. So with that, you're going to have to play really well defensively. You're just going to have to make the plays when they come to you. I think that's another really important element, is not making some of those defensive mistakes in this game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So when you look at, let me get the end zone percentage here for Zacgallen. Okay, so his 4-seam fastball almost 67%. Okay, in 2020, or sinker, I should say. So the 2 pitches, there's your right turn, 67% for the sinker, 58% with the 4-seam fastball. The highest off-speed pitch or secondary pitch, let's not say off-speed because cutters can be coming in pretty hard. The highest secondary pitch that Zacgallen throws for a strike is 43%. So the Dodgers are going to sit fastball. They're going to sit fastball all night. And it's a fastball that when you're looking at its four-seam, it's 94, and his two-seam, let me get to his two-seam here, his sinker is about 93. So from those perspectives, this should be a matchup that the Dodgers need to sit dead red, and we know how the Dodgers hit fastballs. So, this is a matchup that the Dodgers should have success with, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. They've had success against Zacgallen. We'll see if that continues tonight.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Craig says 8-1 Dodgers. Sean says I cut my cable in 2020, best choice I've ever made. Same with us. We never looked back. We loved it. We loved it very, very much. So, okay, again, the keys score early, and I think the way that you do that is spit on all the secondary pitches. You have to force Zacgallen. You have to force him to show that he can throw something other than his four-seam or his sinker, which are both fastballs, in the strike zone more than 43% of the time, which if he's only throwing, and his next secondary pitch would be that cutter, so lay off the cutter, okay? Lay off the changeup. Lay out, he throws a curveball as probably a second, there's probably the secondary he's going to throw the most is going to be his curveball, okay? But his curveball is only in his zone 37% of the time. Don't swing at it. Simply put, don't swing at it. Only swing at fastballs until he proves that he can throw anything other than his four-seam or sinker for a strike. And the thing about that is, okay, the Dodgers will have the information. What type of location does he try to hit based on counts? So there's a term in baseball that you used, hunting. Okay, so the Dodgers are going to do what's called a lot of hunting tonight, meaning you hunt. So let me kind of get a little geeky here so I can explain this before we get off. Okay, so when you hunt, all right, so it's effective velocity that you're working off of. So if you take a 94-mile-an-hour fastball, Austin, and it's on the outer half of the plate, okay, that means to time that pitch to hit it properly, you need to time about 90. Because to hit it on the outer half, you're hitting it in the back of your swing. Does it make sense? So you can time it a little bit slower. But that same 94-mile-an-hour pitch, you have to time 98 to hit to the middle part, the inside part of the plate. Does that make sense? Because you have to hit it earlier in your swing, right? Which is why it's harder to hit inside pitches than outside pitches because the effective velocity to a hitter is higher. So when Bobby Miller throws a 102-mile-an-hour pitch on the inner half, you actually have to time 106. Right, which is why it's almost impossible to hit. So to say that there's an 8-mile-an-hour difference between a fastball located on the outer half than there is on the inner half, that tells you it is impossible to try to adjust to different locations. If you can maybe think inside and adjust to the outside pitch because it's a slower, maybe it's a slower reaction time. But if you're looking for an outside pitch and you get it inside, that's going to be a pitch that's 8-mile-an-hour faster than what you're anticipating. You're not going to hit that pitch. So I say all that. I hope I explained that properly where that made any sense to say that you can't adjust to fastballs. You have to hunt fastballs, and you have to specifically hunt the locations. So what you're going to see the Dodgers do is they're going to know what location Zacgallen throws his fastball in particular counts, and they are going to hunt those fastballs, and when they get it, they're going to come out of their shoes trying to hit it. And I would assume that a lot of them are going to try to hunt some of those inside fastballs, elevate the ball, and try to hit, get the ball in the air. That's going to literally be the game plan for the Dodgers. Figure out what location Gallen's going to throw the fastball, hunt that fastball, spit on the breaking pitches, and make him beat you from that perspective. And I don't think you'll be able to do it.
Yeah. No,
did any of that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a really good, and that's what your experience in the game of baseball kind of provides, some of that insight into hunting fastballs that a lot of people, casual fans, might not understand that terminology. So that's going to be really important for Dodgers to be able to hit that fastball. Zacgallen's going to have to locate his pitches, and it's going to be tough if he's able to do that. Still, Dodgers have a ton of experience. They have the hitters to be able to do that. It is just about 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific time. which means it's just about game time. It is here, game 2.
Yeah, 8:15, right? It'd be
Something
8:15 my
like
time,
that.
which would be 6:15 Pacific.
Yeah, I can check. I can check really quick on here. It just says it's warming up, so it should be happening any minute or so. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're going to get off with that. And, hey, we will have a show tomorrow, so make sure and tune into that. Tell everybody we will. Austin and I are going to wake up early in the morning, and we are going to chew on Game 2. Hopefully, we're going to be chewing on a great result in Game 2. So those are our thoughts as far as what we think needs to happen in Game 1 for the Dodgers to come out with a huge win. I'm going to end this like I started it. This is not a must-win game, Austin, but this is a must-win game.
it absolutely is.
No doubt about it. So, hey, we had a great crowd tonight. We had great interaction. We want to thank everybody that joined, the Damino, Craig, Sean, Jay, and then we had Michael as well, and we had Roy joined as well, and then Hep C joined. So we had a great crowd tonight, and obviously we enjoyed it very, very much. Again, we're going to do this for each and every playoff game for the Dodgers. We're going to hop on here and have a live pregame show. This is your show, so spread the word and make sure everybody knows to come on over and join the pregame show for the live Dodgers Dogs. Any final thoughts before we get off?
Just one quick note. Braves are back in this series. They just took the lead against the Phillies.
All right, so that's going to be
just there. Getting in on the Dodgers. Excited for Bobby-Miller. Let's go win game 2.
Took the Braves a while to kind of get recycled back into the flow of things. Hopefully that happens with the Dodgers as well. So, hey, looking forward to a very fun game 2 tonight. Want to thank everybody for tuning in, as always, and say, go Dodgers.